Greetings everyone, my name is Etterville, and welcome back to my Let's Play of Mega Man Maker. Well, it's that time again. It's time to cover a longer level, that being Mega Man 2 Megamix by MrDocRobot, with 22 plays and a score of 2. It's a viewer-submitted level, which is a sequel to the viewer-submitted level Mega Man 1 Megamix, which was effectively a remix of all the stages from Mega Man 1, those being the Roadmaster stages, as well as the Wily Fortress stages. We also got remixes of the 2 extra stages, or the 2 extra Roadmasters that were added in Mega Man Powered Up, those being Oil Man and Time Man. So this sequel is going to do a similar thing, but with the Mega Man 2 stages. As always, if you want one of the levels to be featured in a part like this one, please leave both the level name and level ID either in the comment section below or direct message me on Twitter. Also, as always, the full disclaimer of this entire LP series is linked in the description below. Also in the description are the timestamps for all the levels I cover in these parts. So for the parts where I cover more than one level, please expand the description to see if your level was covered. Oh boy, the loading time was quite long. In fact, I had to load a level once before, and that took over 90 seconds to load it up. This one was a lot faster. Probably due to it being cached in the RAM. And of course, here we have the 8 Roadmasters. We see the teleporters for each one of them, and we can see which one of the stages each one corresponds to based on the tiles below each of the teleporters. But before that, let's go upwards and see what's up there. I'm a bit worried about the lag though. And of course, we have to go through all the 8 stages if we want to cross this gap. So Metal Blade, Leaf Shield, Air Shooter, Crash Bomb, Windstorm instead of the Bubble Lead because we don't have the Bubble Lead, Atomic Fire, Flash Stopper, and Quick Boomerang. That should be all of it. Like I said, hopefully the devs can add the Bubble Lead in the future, because that's the only missing weapon from Mega Man 2. We even have the utilities of Item 1 through Item 3. So let's start from the bottom left and work our way upwards by going to a Metal Man stage. And of course we have Mega Man 2 physics, so only jumping and shooting. Thankfully we still have the E-Tank. Oh boy, the stage is moving a bit slowly here. It may work for me or against me depending on how it works though. Like, it's now a lot easier to jump over each of these presses. And thankfully we don't have the moles yet in this engine, but we do have the Gear Knights, or Gear Riders, or whatever these enemies are called. And of course we also have the Blockies. Never got used to how they blew up upon impact though. Okay, got it this time. I'm not going for the E-Tank, I'm taking the safer route. I don't have Item 1 or Item 3 yet. In fact, I may unlock it because I unlocked the Magnet Beam back in Mega Man 1 Megamix. And remember, these are shorter remixes of each of the stages. They're about half to a third of the original length. So thankfully we do not need to replay through the entirety of Mega Man 2 again. And at the end of these segments, instead of fighting the boss, we'll get the weapon pickup associated with the boss, in this case the Metal Blade, a full life refill, and checkpoint. Next up is Crash Man. It seems that the first one of every screen will be as similar to the original stage as possible, first 2 or 3 of them, and then they differ a bit. The reason why I went through Metal Man stage first is because of how useful the Metal Blade is. After all, I can just grind right through all those enemies at once. Specifically all those tellies. Unfortunately, because I wasn't fast enough, I have to wait for the crash lifts to come back over here. Also, because we can't dynamically switch between each of the musical tracks in this engine, we're just going to be hearing the Wily Fortress theme from Mega Man 2, the Y Fortress 1 team, for probably the next 30 or 40 minutes, so my apologies. I'm also thankful we don't have Pippies in this engine yet, either. Otherwise, this segment would be a lot harder. We also don't have the mechanical ride armors, or rather, the sniper armors. And that's the end of Crashman segment. I'm not sure if we need the Crashman corridors, or rather the boss corridors for every boss, because we don't have a boss at the end. We might as well just put the end door room in the previous room. Anyways, we have the Crash Bomb, so up next is Heatman stage. And because we don't have lava, we instead have red force beams, which do a similar trick. And of course, just like the classic Heatman level, we have Yoku blocks. And the other reason why I went to Crashman segment first was so I can skip some of these segments. If you're a first time Mega Man player, going through these segments can be a bit, let's just say, more difficult than it is. Specifically because you have to time yourself properly, like over there. Though each of these rooms are much easier than before because we don't have lava pits yet. Now we do. This is where item 1, 2, or 3 would be helpful, especially item 2. If anything, I like how this stage utilized the Yoku blocks more than the original Heatman level. It's a lot better introduction. Oh, and we get item 1 over here. I thought it'd be tucked away in a secret location similar to the magnet beam in Mega Man 1 Megamix. But this works. This should be helpful in a few levels. For example, Airman's level, or Crashman stage. Next up is Woodman. Where of course we have the batons as well as the atomic robots. Too bad we don't have the atomic chickens. And of course, we have the hot dog. I mean, it was introduced here, after all. And there should be one more. There we go, in increasing difficulty. In these segments we'd have these Mung Kings hanging on from the ceilings, but of course we don't have this in this engine, so we instead have these ladder climbing segments with all of these batons. Here we'd have a fourth segment with the Mung Kings as well, trying to grab onto the bottom, but we don't have it. So instead we have the brain breaks. After all, substitutes are necessary. It may have been a better idea to hold off creating this level until more assets for Mega Man 2 are added in the future. But this is good enough. After all, it was made following version 1.2.x, which added a whole litany of items for Mega Man 2 and Mega Man 3. And that's it for Woodman's level, where we get the leaf shield, which I feel is a lot better in comparison to Mega Man 2, although I may be misremembering how it worked back in Mega Man 2. Anyways, Bubble Man stage, where of course we have the croakers. We do not have a falling platform segment though, like what happened before. Instead we have count bombs, for a substitute. And they have a similar effect. After all, we have to go off of them as quickly as possible before they detonate. But I still find this to be a bit easier, and it does give a better indication of when they'll blow up because they actually have timers, as opposed to how it worked back in the original level, where you had to learn it. And it was kind of trial by fire because many of them were placed over bottomless pits. Here we're going to face all of these shrinks, but we don't have the lanternfish mini-boss here, so we'll just skip past it. Instead we have a Tama. And of course, because we don't have those jellyfish enemies descending from the ceiling, we'll instead have all these lyrics. Plus we do have a similar spike segment too. It's also a lot easier because that spike segment extended for twice as long in the original level. Now we're out. Well, I should expect it because these are shorter remixes. To be quite honest, in comparison to Mega Man 1's Mega Man Mix, this is a lot easier. I haven't died any time yet, whereas I died at least 2 or 3 times by this point. Mainly due to Gutsman's stage. Anyways, by defeating Bubble Man, we get to replace him for the Bubble Head, the Wind Tornado. So onwards to Quickman's level. Good thing I got the Wind Tornado there, as well as item 1. So prepare for red force beams. I wish I had sliding or the flash stopper. I probably should have went through Flashman's segment first. Prepare for some deaths. Here we'll be facing some Schwarms, but we don't have Schwarms. Now, time for force beams. Of course, they're red. And of course, I'm instantly dead. You know what? Let me go to Flashman's segment first, and then I'll go to Quickman's segment. After all, the flash stopper's a lot more useful here, mainly because I have multiple uses, and it doesn't tick down over time. So here's Flashman's stage. We don't actually have the exact Flashman tile set, but this works. Once again, I'm really thankful there's no sniper armors here. Otherwise, these segments would be a lot more difficult. Especially without the air shooter. Here we'd face a sniper armor, but instead we fight this big eye. This room looks suspiciously empty. Normally I think there'd be a few enemies here, but I guess not. Another really important thing is that the big eyes are a little bit less dangerous than the sniper armors, mainly because they can't shoot up to me up here. And here we get both item tree and the flash stopper. Wonderful. So with Flashman down, let's go through Quickman's Gauntlet once again. This time with the flash stopper equipped. Better safe than sorry. And I can use it multiple times to make this segment a lot easier. After all, I'm a bit worried of falling to bottomless pits. Never mind, it's just a free E-tank there. If only the time stopper worked the way the flash stopper does, then Quickman's level wouldn't be so painful. This is all doable buster only, but I'd rather not risk dying all the time. And okay then, normally you'd fight Quickman if you go down, but instead we went upwards. Only one thing left, Airman. The Quick Boomerang is nice, but I'd rather use my Mega Buster, or the other direct firing weapons. And there's me instantly dying because I didn't pay attention. Those are replacements for the air tikis. What I'm really thankful for is that even though the stage feels a bit large and the loading times are a bit longer than usual, there is little to no stage stuttering or lag. Airman stage, take 2. Instead of summoning all of those gremlins, it instead summons these Yamasees. Honestly, this configuration is a lot more dangerous because instead of the air tiki summoning small drills, they summon these really big fire bars that are hard to jump over, or impossible to jump over. And because we don't have the lightning lords or cloud platforms that orbit around, we instead have crash lifts. And of course the Fan Fiends. Should have expected him to be here. These are some of the segments where I really wish I had sliding. Then again, I have item 1 and item 3, I probably should be utilizing that more. Wonderful! The Leaf Shield actually does 2 shots to Fan Fiends. That's super helpful. Yeah, I'm not taking any risks there. No thank you. Due to the abridged nature of all these stages, I'd say that most of these levels, outside of maybe Quickman stage and the first half of Airman stage, are easier. Quickman's level was about the same difficulty but shorter in some ways. And Airman's first half of the stage was harder because of the fire bars. And of course we get the air shooter in item 2. So now we have all special weapons and utilities required to finish the stage. So with all of those done, let's restock on everything. Well, mostly everything. And time to blow up everything. I wish it was ordered directly next to each other so it made it easier to switch. And that should be it. We also have item 1, 2, and 3, although I don't know why item 3 has a different color box. So now we're in the Wily Fortress levels. I wonder how all 6 of them are going to be remixed. We're probably going to skip the boss rematches in Wily 5. We're probably going to skip past Wily 5 in general, actually. Time to use item 3 here. Of course, we could also just use item 1 or item 2, but I might as well give item 3 a chance of time to shine. This isn't quite the tile set for Wily Fortress 1 of Mega Man 2, but it's good enough. Also, if I recall correctly, the original placement of this Sniper Joe was a lot more annoying, with a low hanging ceiling, but here it's a lot less annoying. And now we have the Mecha Dragon run to the right, but of course we don't have any fortress bosses in this engine yet. At the very least, we have mini-bosses for now. Maybe as a future update. I'd love to see the Mecha Dragon added, it's just a so iconic fortress boss. So now we're in Fortress 2. Oops. That's not how I expected it to work. Oh well, at least there was a checkpoint right at the beginning of this segment. This time, I'll take the safer route by going upwards. Though if I took that route, I would have gotten 4 large weapon capsules, so that's the trade-off. But then I need to fight off this big eye, so that's the replacement. Another mole room replaced with all of these enemies, the Potons. And of course, we have this room with all the crash lifts. Not crash lifts, the Metal Man pressers. Seriously, the Wily Fortress stages feel like they're a bit gimped. Especially this one, this was a lot harder before. Here's where it faced this... I don't know what to call this boss, Block Devil? Not really. But I recognize this room structure. Anyways, on to Wily Tree. I don't need a spare E-tank, so I'll just go for these large weapon pickups. The boss of this stage, if I recall correctly, was the Guts Dozer. And now we're in the water segment of Wily Tree, although the coloration I believe was yellow instead of blue. Well, I guess Wily cleaned his filtration system for the water. We'd also find a lanternfish here or nearby. And of course, here's the requisite spike dropping segment. And here we'd fight the Guts Dozer. Instead we fight 2 of these enemies. Now on to stage 4. I believe the boss for this one is the Boo Beam Trap. So let's see how this variation of Boo Beam Trap will be. Or rather, how this stage will implement it. Probably a really easy one because either they'll put keys behind each of the traps, or something else. And instead of the fake floors, where we need to use Bubble Head to determine which floor is fake, we instead have all these gyro platforms. I forget what mini-boss was over here, so I'm not sure how appropriate the replacement with the power musclers are. Well, thanks for reminding me we need to use the Crash Bomber here. So let's see this variation. Okay then, this is super easy. We only need 2 shots. Getting up there is the problem though. There we go. At the very least, unlike the Boo Beam Trap, whose projectiles tried aiming at you, this one's a lot easier. Is this the boss rematch room? It looks to be. Okay then, so we do actually have boss rematches, but instead we have a choice between 8 series of enemy rooms. Fair enough. Crash Bomb seems to be the way to go with all of these clusters of enemies, and the fact that it did multi-hits. Leaf Shield would also be another alternative, as well as the Atomic Fire. We're seeing a bunch of enemies that weren't present in Mega Man though, Mega Man 2 that is. I wonder though, do each of the 8 teleporters lead to the same area, or do they lead to different areas? Really, Crash Bomb just tears through all of these enemies. It makes these segments a cinch. And here's Wily 6. We effectively did have Wily 5, but I believe all those teleporters led to that same gauntlet of enemies. There were probably 8 rooms dedicated to the 8 different bosses. But of course, unlike the Roadmaster rematch of Mega Man 2, there was no need to use anything other than the Crash Bomb, and maybe the Leaf Shield and Flash Stopper. Instead of fighting the Wily Alien, we'll be fighting Crashman, whose weakness is, of course, the air shooter. Just like before. So that marks the end of Mega Man 2 Megamix, where we went to all of the 8 Roadmaster stages as well as the 6 Wily Fortress stages. In comparison with Mega Man 1 Megamix, this is definitely easier. There are less segments like a Legman stage as well as Gutsman stage, but overall it was a breeze and a smoother experience. There was a bit of a difficulty spike with the Wily Fortress stages, but they weren't as difficult as the original levels, that's for sure. In fact, most of the shorter remixes or / abridged versions of these stages are easier than the original versions. Outside of Quickman stage, which was about the same difficulty but shorter, and Airman stage, which was a bit more difficult than Airman's original level due to the fire bars, but it was only the first half. It was definitely shorter than the original one. That one took 40 minutes to complete, this one took about 30. I could have done it faster, under 25 minutes if I hadn't died as much, and I picked a better stage order. But overall, I liked it. It's a par to above par level. Though how much you enjoyed kinda depends on if you played Mega Man 2 or not, and how much you enjoyed the original stage design. Well then, thanks for watching, and have a nice day. Toodles!